For the very first
evaluation, copy.
The mission that I'm here to achieve is a very personal one, first and foremost, and then hopefully that will transpire into something which is of benefit to a wider circle of people, both in Britain and maybe even beyond the borders of Britain, and that is trying to understand exactly what the issue of Sudan is. Unfortunately now, those who follow the media, who read the news headlines, who watch TVs, are under one single impression, and that is that Sudan is ruled by an evil government, a dictatorship almost, and that that particular government is paramount in creating a human suffering, in participating and contributing towards a human suffering on a scale virtually never seen before. That is the kind of image that one seems to get from following the news. However, unfortunately, as are the cases of recent past, whether in terms of Afghanistan, in terms of Iraq, in terms of what is happening in Palestine, I think firstly one has to embark or depart from a point of extreme suspicion in the kind of facts portrayed by governments today, which are driven by self-serving interests, by very short-term and short-sighted and very narrow-sighted kind of objectives, and unfortunately driven by an overwhelming fear of any kind of manifestation of Islam or a role for Muslims in the public sphere. While Sudan undoubtedly suffers many problems, economic, political, strategic, in terms of demography and the like. However, one has to recognize also that the West has been instrumental in exacerbating, in intensifying many of those problems. And once again, unfortunately, as are the cases, as I have mentioned previously, in Iraq and Afghanistan and elsewhere, it is once again the meddling and the interfering of the West in a part of the world in which it had no interest whatsoever until it became quite tangible what kind of interest those were, either economic or otherwise. Its meddling and its interfering is a very, very elementary and very important part of the creation and the exacerbation of the problem that we have today and the Sudanese people are having today. From a very brief look at the list of measures that have been adopted by the Sudanese government over the past few years, one comes to see how the government has time and time again convened and ratified agreements, treaties, accords, and all sorts of contracts in order to share power, in order to create confederations, in order to bring to the ruling of Sudan many of its past foes, and which have become current partners in the future, and the making and the aspirations of Sudan and the Sudanese people. And it seems that despite all that the West, primarily the United Kingdom, which has itself sponsored many of those ratification agreements and deals and conferences and the such, as well as France and other parties within the European Union, as well as the United States, unfortunately, continue to play an extremely negative role in exacerbating a particular, or bringing to the fore a particular problem that is of not specifically of the making of the government, but rather a problem that has been politicized rather than being dealt with in a manner that brings about any kind of humane resolution. And this final move on the part of the International Crime Court, once again, we seem adamant to politicize an issue that, if true, if it is to be brought between the ICC, then it is an entirely legal process. Yet we see nothing of that process taking place, but rather an issue that is intensely political, which is being resolved in the legal courts. Something, once again, which we make an immense blunder if we were to pursue. We we definitely complicate matters if we were to go down this particular line and this particular path. However, if we are true and sincere about seeing a resolution to the problems that Sudan and the Sudanese people first and foremost face, then it is they that have to find that kind of resolution for themselves without the meddling upon our self-serving interests of the West and Western governments. I think it's about time that we opened our horizons, that we opened our eyes to the possibility, in fact, the very likely probability, that our governments, first of all, don't know the whole story. Secondly, they may not be interested in us knowing the whole story, and that the media are serving, possibly even driving, those very short-sighted interests and objectives. It's about time that we realize that what we have at stake whilst we play a political game is the fact that hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of people's lives are at stake. It's about time that we opened our eyes and realized there may be another side to the story. Thank you very much.